Hi guys. After constant bombardment by the news about the coronavirus, tracking apps, enforced immunizations by poisonous vaccines, imagine you have a bad dream, like in Dante's Inferno, the poem's 9 circles of hell. And instead of climbing up these circles, imagine in your dream you're trying to run up an escalator in the wrong way. Unless you run fanatically, you keep coming down. At the bottom of the escalator, the bottom circle in Dante's Inferno, is where you didn't get your immunizations and you lost your right to work, to shop, to see a doctor, and to move around. Basically left to die. But if you're a good citizen and follow the rules, get your immunizations, and denounce inobedient people to get points, you move up. It's a second layer from the top. You even get 3 months of travel allowance. Too bad that it doesn't include Christmas to see your old parents. Bad luck. The first layer is for the politicians, our government, who have to keep pleasing and paying the ruling class, the billionaires, who hold all the strings, acting like a global mafia and are outside the law. Now finally you wake up, soaked in sweat. You feel already better, have even a laugh at things already, and you start believing in the good of the people. How foolish you were to dream that nonsense. One world government, a global dictatorship, a Hunger Games society. Bullshit. But then you start remembering that 4 days of the shutdown correspond to 1% of the annual GDP, which is lost. And 5 weeks of shutdown already correspond to 10% of the GDP. You also remember why we brush our teeth for 2 minutes, so the fluoride has time to kill the bacteria, following a killing curve. Now replace bacteria by small businesses and fluoride by the lockdown measures. You also remember that after the last Great Depression 100 years ago, World War II was around the corner. Now you remember the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, who, despite so many things going on, can only talk about himself, how many liters of oxygen he needed in the hospital, what the first names of all the nurses are, and what his new baby's name is.
We avoided an uncontrollable and catastrophic epidemic where the reasonable worst case scenario was 500,000 deaths.
Oops, the scientist who claimed the 500,000 deaths just resigned. And you see that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded BBC is lying. The paper said 500,000.
We have so many reasons to be hopeful for the long term. The UK is leading international efforts to find a vaccine. I will be setting out a comprehensive plan next week to explain how we can get our economy moving, one, how we can get our children back to school, back into childcare, second, and third, how we can travel to work and how we can make life in the workplace safer.
But he looks scared. Is he lying? Why are so many people clapping? I know the NHS is doing a fantastic job, but the Conservative Party kept cutting their funding over the years. Why are they clapping now? They can't even go to the dentist. There's basically no healthcare anymore. And their old parents or grandparents are dying at home or in nursing homes, with domestic abuse and suicides on the steep rise. And then you remember the bizarre interviews of Bill and Melinda Gates.
We do believe that to whom much is given, much is expected. And that means you need to have a fair tax system that taxes the wealthy more than lower middle income. And you need to have a vibrant philanthropy sector. Philanthropy can never make up for taxes, but it is that catalytic wedge where we can try things, we can do innovations that you wouldn't want your government to do with tax dollars, but then it has to be government that scales up things like health or education.
$1 fortune to charity. You also created the Giving Pledge with Warren Buffett to get billionaires to donate at least half their net worth to... What made you do this? And how is it working out?
Well, it was a great idea that our partner Warren Buffett had, which is he said the right thing for society. If you're lucky enough to grow up in the United States, you ought to give at least half of your fortune back. If you have $1 billion, you can afford to give half back. And so we now have 190 people who've taken the pledge, 22 different countries, to say that they will, in their lifetime or in their will, give away half their wealth back to society.
Wow.
You can also view philanthropic work as a sign of guilt. First, these ruthless businessmen are exploiting their workers and treating their competitors unfairly, and with these illegal practices make billions of dollars. And so they created this huge gradient of wealth, and to give it away can be viewed as a sign of admission that what they did was not right, and so they have to give back. The gradient of wealth is too large. And of course they save some taxes and again put themselves in the spotlight. So it's really about the individual. So why would now over 200 billionaires sign this collective pledge across the globe? That seems to be the opposite of what philanthropic work normally achieves. Let's go back to 2009. The financial crisis is just over. The swine flu was predicted to cause millions of deaths, with the same doctors active as now. In Germany there was and still is the WHO funded Dr. Christian Drosten and his opponent Dr. Wolfgang Wodak, who is again the opponent and was discredited in the media. In any case, people like Dr. Christian Drosten let the government spend 215 million euros to buy vaccines. In the end, it turned out that only 30 people in Germany died of the swine flu, and also unwanted vaccines, which also caused, by the way, severe side effects, needed to be destroyed, wasting huge amounts of taxpayers' money. And you would think Bill Gates and the WHO back then failed. But did they? The question is, what can one billionaire really achieve? Since the bailout of banks and ruthless hedge funds in 2008, now more than 50% of the world's wealth is owned by only 1% of the richest people, by a few of these billionaires. So put them together and they are a majority. And remember, they also own most of the media channels worldwide. So the fiasco in 2009 could never happen again? In 2010, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett started the Giving Pledge, which now includes more than 200 billionaires across the globe. It's a truly global effort. Now imagine governments who abused their powers, who bailed out banks, mismanaged for years, broke the law with illegal migration, destroyed the economy because of climate hysteria. So now governments have so much dirt on their hands that they can easily be bought, blackmailed and turned into puppets. And remember, they own the news channels. One world government? How absurd. But is it? If it didn't work in 2009, try again. But they are not elected, need no justification, and are above the law. So could the Giving Pledge really be the takeover by a one world government made out of billionaires?
Yeah, it's nice to see your house.
It's nice to see yours too. Or unless you're broadcasting to us from the billionaire bunker at the center of the moon you share with Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, the club.